Again, I'm here with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how FWC might fit into this puzzle and some resources that we very well may have for folks in this room listening as they look to address some of the things that have been talked about today. And so I want to start by saying that we have this concept, sort of a backbone idea right now in FWC, landscape conservation. And what that really means in effect is that's us telling ourselves and telling people on the outside that we are reducing the borders and the boundaries when it comes to sharing information, sharing resources, and sharing, pooling knowledge, essentially. Sort of an older model had a little bit more siloing happening. We are really interested in collaborating with folks all the way up to federal level down to, and across state agency boundaries, and then also very much, and perhaps most importantly, with municipalities and with counties. And that's essentially important to what we're doing right now, because that's where we find a lot of the knowledge is based, is in folks who are on the ground in different areas of the state. And so we are essentially, that's our way of saying, we're in a very collaborative mood, and I think that's across the board in natural resource stewardship in this country. So me particularly, and my Office of Conservation Planning Services, we kind of think of ourselves as like the gateway to the agency, to FWC. You might think that would be more like if you have an alligator in your swimming pool, that might be a gateway to FWC. You might call someone with FWC or a bear in your trash. We do a lot of different things here at FWC, and we are one of the ways that you might be most likely to reach out to us, especially if you are a landowner or are involved in land use decisions. We're involved in those left and right. I want to, the two areas that are underlined here are sort of our two separate entities within my office. And I'm giving you a lot of, starting a lot of terms here, but this landowner assistance program here on the left, that's a really exciting area where we are able to go out on the ground and really engage with private landowners. We're it's a voluntary program, and we are there to basically provide our expertise for folks who are looking to do different things with the land and with the wildlife. That land use planning program is for land use changes that might be happening. That's most often going to be from some land use into residential. We are there to help you say, all right, how can we go about this in a way that does not disrupt listed wildlife species? So that's where we are basically helping to review a lot of these plans, a lot of these projects across the state. And so, returning to this landowner assistance program, I just want to make clear that this is a resource that has a lot of potential for folks who have private lands, and I think we're sort of steadily gaining in trust in this area, and in understanding that we're here, because it's kind of really like there's a free asset where you just give us a call and we're able to come out and basically advise private landowners to say, hey, maybe I'm looking, I would like to see more deer on my property, or larger deer, or I would like to see more wild turkey, or bobwhite quail. I'm wanting to see these on my property. How can I make this happen? We're helping folks to understand what that means to enhance wildlife habitat on private lands. We are also down to a smaller scale, so in a few acres, who would like to see better pollinator habitat on their property. We have a really broad base of knowledge that we're willing to share, and maybe just as importantly, we also are able to pick out what the funding opportunities are for different folks. And there's quite a few of them, to be honest with you. We don't happen to have a lot of ways to share money, to cost share, but we know where they are, and we make those connections wherever we can. So this is sort of an appeal to anyone in this room. You may know of landowners who are they love their land, they love their property. They're not quite sure what to do in terms of managing it to accentuate the wildlife opportunities. This is kind of what we do. So we're out there, and we appreciate what folks already do with our So, excuse me. This has been touched on, and again, this is I think has gained in the awareness on this has increased, I think, exponentially over the past few years. I mean, Florida Wildlife Corridors is looked at internationally as a model and as a success. But what I think it helps folks mostly to understand, hopefully, is that if you're a black bear, if you are any type of, if you're any form of wildlife, you don't really care if it's a public park or a state preserve, or if it's someone's hunt lease, or if it's someone's cattle ranch. You're moving, you're going across these areas regardless of what the supposed tenure or ownership is. And that's where we have to understand, again, when I go back to this landscape conservation idea, it has to be an understanding that everybody is involved in this, whether you are aware of it or not. If you are, and what we're able to do and hoping to do as a state is to say, if you're hoping to meet some of these shared objectives, we're here to help. We're here to provide resources, money, whatever we can. And I want to hone in a little bit, get a little bit more specific, perhaps. I think of us here in East Central Florida as being sort of like a blending zone. If you're looking at this map, to the south you see a greater ratio of cattle pastures, things like this. And as you move to the north, right through our area, you start to pick up a little bit, or increasing amounts of timber plantations and things like that. So I think of this area as really a blending zone between these two sort of land use types, and that makes it really interesting. I think it makes for a lot of diversity here. And as I say, we are what we want to do above anything is to say we want to enable you to make decisions that might be compatible with what you're attempting to do as a private landowner. If you own a timber plantation, and you also know that you could have gopher tortoise population on your property, and maybe you want to be a recipient for gopher tortoises because, quite honestly, that's a very financially prudent decision for some folks. There's a lot out there in terms of financially speaking. So we're able to help folks make these decisions that blend what the private landowners are always obviously wanting and needing to do, and wildlife needs and requirements, because these are not incompatible oftentimes. And I want to sort of briefly touch on, specifically when we're talking about, really honestly, funding. Within the East Central Florida region, we have two really large and really meaningful things that are coming down from the federal scale, quite honestly, as major areas of investment that touch on our East Central Florida region. So just to call a couple of them out, the Ocala to Osceola Wildlife Corridor. It covers a few of our counties here, actually. And it then extends all the way up to the Georgia line, right? So this is a key area for that initiative by itself. And the Lake to Lagoon, I know that in this room, we folks are very happy and excited about that right now, because that was recently announced. And that's obviously Lake George, the Indian River Lagoon. That touches a lot of what we have around here, right? And that is also includes, has received attention from really high scales in terms of it being an important region for us. And so investments that we made there for multiple different So I guess what I would just sort of leave it on here is, I myself, and I'm going to take some questions, and if anybody wants to come chat afterwards, I'll come around. But I live in Central Florida. I grew up in Volusia County. I live there now. I hope that we can sort of see ourselves here in this room as being a really key area for the overall movement of wildlife, really throughout the north to south in the state, right? From essentially this area, without it, you aren't seeing movement that would possibly go from the Everglades in the south to the Okefenokee Swamp, to two of the largest wilderness areas in the eastern U.S. We are a connecting area between those two areas, just as an example. So I would leave that with you all as a way to sort of see ourselves and see what the importance of this region really is. So there's a little bit more contact information, and maybe just a moment for a question. Maybe just like one, again, I'm around afterward.
Any questions?